District U.S. House of Representatives Candidate Forum, the fourth program in our 2016-2017 programming year. My name is Juan Carlos Valle, City Club Board President. The City Club of Eugene is the Eugene's Forum of Ideas. We are a member-funded nonprofit that builds community vision through open inquiry. We help to formulate new approaches and solutions to problems by exploring a wide range of significant local, state, and national issues. Our members have a direct influence on public policy by discussing issues of concern with elected officials and other public policy makers. Become a member today. Go to www.cityclubofeugene.org. The program is sponsored today by a local business sponsor, Evans, Elder, and Brown. Evans, Elder, and Brown, a Eugene commercial real estate company dedicated exclusively to selling, leasing, and developing office, retail, investment, industrial properties, and assisting clients in completing 1031 tax deferred exchanges. A special thanks to our host, the Baker Center, for graciously hosting us every Friday. And now to the Oregon's 4th District House of Representatives Candidate Forum. It is my pleasure to introduce Sammy, who's been helping us out with programs like this in the past. But first, I want to say thank you to Sandy Erickson for coordinating this program. Sandy, thank you for your service. So the moderator today will be Rachel McDonald from KLCC. And we have collaborated with KLCC throughout this series. They've been graciously supplying our moderators, so we're pleased that that's been happening, and will continue in the future. Rachel started her career at KLCC in 2000 as a volunteer in the newsroom. She set up with Richland Bureau in 2004 for the Northwest News Network, reporting on the cleanup at Hanford Nuclear Reservation, chemical weapons destruction at Umatilla Chemical Depot, as well as agriculture and wine. Rachel returned to KLCC in 2007 to host Morning Edition. She also reports to on Lane County government, forest issues, and a variety of other local and regional stories. With that in mind, let's welcome our moderator, Rachel McDonald.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'm Rachel McDonald with KLCC, and we'll start this 4th congressional debate with opening statements. Should we go ahead and have the candidates come up to be here at the front of the room? We'll be doing the opening statements in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Mike Beilstein, and then Congressman DeFazio, and then Gil Guthrie, and then Art Robinson. So that's the order for the opening statements. We'll each have a total of 4 minutes. So 4 minutes or less for your opening statements. And then I will ask the first question, and after that we'll break for City Club members and the audience to submit written questions for the candidates. And the second part of the program will be for questions and answers. And we'll wrap up with brief closing statements of 2 minutes each, and those will be in reverse order from the opening order. And John is our timekeeper. So keep an eye on John, and please do keep your statements brief and to the point. So, Mr. Beilstein, would you like to step up to the microphone, please?
Thank you. I'll start with a brief rambling introduction. I'm Mike Beilstein. I'm the Green Party candidate for Congress in this district. Just a bit about myself. I'm a retired chemist. I worked at Oregon State University for 30 years, and for the last 12 years I've been on the City Council in Corvallis. I guess amongst my greatest accomplishments in that 12 years is that we have fareless transit in Corvallis. People just step on a bus and they ride. Nobody, we don't collect fares, and I think it's a great thing. I think we should have that everywhere. We saw an immediate increase in ridership, about 40%, and that means those are people who are not driving cars around. So only 10% of our revenue for transit came from fares. So we were able to find other ways to replace that fare money, and I think as a result we've got a transit system that really works well for people. And I think this, I can't take credit for this. It was really more our Public Works Department that did it. But as a Green member of the City Council, which is nonpartisan, I felt that was a really green solution to our transportation problems. Now we could use a better transit system, and we could do other things better, but this is the type of solution that we need. I'll say a bit about the Green Party. The Green Party is actually an international movement. It started in the 1960s in Germany as a mostly anti-nuclear power and nuclear weapons organization there. And there's no international association of Green Parties, but the Green Parties, wherever they exist, follow some basic principles. And those 4 basic principles are social justice. We want everyone to get a fair shake in society. Ecological wisdom, that we have to pay attention to the environment. And democracy, that decisions should be made by participation of everyone who's participating in society. And nonviolence. And those 4 principles are basic to the Green Party everywhere, and I've tried in my life and in my political career as a city councilor to advance those principles. I think right now the greatest issue facing our country is climate change, and I don't see the level of response required to actually deal with this problem. And through this campaign, my running for Congress, that's my intention, is to bring this concept of we need urgent action on climate change now. We need, as Bill McKibben has said, that we need to treat this as the climate versus us. If we don't respond, we're going to be destroyed. And we need these investments in photovoltaics and alternative energy sources right now. Another part of that, which I've tried to promote, is the concept of a carbon tax. That without it, and James Hansen and other people have said this: if we don't tax carbon, then the game's over. We've lost. We're now allowing people to pollute carbon dioxide into the atmosphere for free, and it's a great resource. And if it's free, well, you're going to take advantage of it. And so it's only through instituting regional, national, and international carbon taxing, a price on carbon, that we can address the climate problem. So thank you for having me here today. In my last few seconds, I'll mention I'm an active member of the City Club in Corvallis. We're much smaller and than you, but we try. Thank you.
Congressman DeFazio.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is probably the most partisan and least productive Congress, with a couple of exceptions in which I've served. The Republican leadership has been driven to the far right by an alt-right group of extremist Tea Party folks, 40 to 50 of them. They drove out Speaker Boehner, no liberal. Their position is anti-government, no compromise, no matter how important the issue to the country. Recently, they held up Zika funding for 5 months because they wanted to defund Planned Parenthood. Now, Mr. Robinson will join that group. He shares their extremist views. In fact, he might be more extreme. He says he's rabidly pro-life. He's rabidly pro-life to the point where he says, and this is a little bit distasteful, that a woman who has been raped must be required to carry the rapist's child to term, but be generously compensated by the government. We do not need to add to that cadre of obstructionist right-wing extremists in Congress. Now, I said there were some exceptions. I serve on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. I'm the ranking Democrat there. Probably the only bill to come out of this Congress that's going to put people back to work and make America a more fuel-efficient place and more competitive in the world economy is a long-term bipartisan transportation bill, the first one in a decade. It came out of our committee. Bill Schuster and I negotiated with the Senate and the White House. We passed that bill into law. It's going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs in America. I also negotiated in a provision that'll bring an extra $325 million to Oregon over and above what we historically got to help us deal with our crumbling infrastructure. That means we're going to be creating thousands of jobs here in Oregon. These aren't just construction jobs. These are construction jobs, yes, but they're also engineering, they're design, they're manufacturing when we're dealing with transit vehicles. I strengthened the Buy America requirements in this bill, so we're going to bring more jobs home to build transit vehicles in this country. And you know, it stimulates the economy generally. Now beyond that, my committee has also passed out a water resources development bill, which for the first time will provide a permanent guarantee of dredging for small ports. That's never existed before. I used to fund small ports with earmarks. The Republicans banned earmarks. Some of my ports shoaled in. Well, now I've got to set aside in legislation for small ports. That's critical to the Oregon economy on the coast, not just the commercial fishermen, but the recreational economy too. And that provision is in that bill because of the work I did. You know, I represent 2 great universities, 5 great community colleges. Personally, I've contributed over, at this point, $340,000 to 250 scholarships at the U of O and the 5 community colleges. That's not enough. I'm very concerned about the extraordinary debt that our young people are graduating with. I've introduced a bill, the Higher Ed Act, that will raise Pell Grants from $5,400 to the average cost of public education here in Oregon, $9,400 a year, so these kids aren't accumulating more debt. I also would change the debt repayment program. Right now, as soon as you earn $17,000 a year, you have to start repaying your debt. That's really not enough money. I raised the threshold to $27,000, and I also say until you reach $27,000, you don't have to pay anything back, you don't accumulate any interest, and oh, by the way, the interest rates will be the same interest rates that are given to those big Wall Street banks. Good enough for them, better for our students. And I would also reestablish eligibility for graduate students in this program. They were thrown out under one of those bad budget deals the Republicans forced upon us. So with that, I'd ask for your support and re-election to Congress. I still got energy and determination for this job. Thank you.
Okay, and now our Libertarian candidate, Gil Guthrie.
Yes, my name is Gil Guthrie. My full name, Malin Gilbert Guthrie Jr. My grandmother named my father, who was senior, of course, and her name was Hazel, and I just think that if she had changed the G to an F, I would have been Malin Filbert, and I would be unstoppable up the Mackenzie and out towards Sweet Home with a name like Malin Filbert, and I could be everybody's Phil. I'm the Libertarian candidate by virtue of having a nominating ballot on my desk for 3 weeks and looking at it repeatedly, and I came to the conclusion that it does pay $177,000 a year and is full of perks. And the cost to enter? A simple postage stamp. Much better chances than my lottery. Well, what could possibly go wrong? Well, I am a Lincoln man. I'm no longer a Republican. My father was a Republican, the last of that Hatfield, Tom McCall type of Republican, who were liberal and progressive, who were for equal rights. My father was a member of the NAACP and the Sierra Club when he ran for Congress in West Virginia, which is where I was born. I'm a returnee to Oregon. I went to school at the U of O in the 70s and went back east to a career in construction and design and architecture. That's basically my education. In terms of credentials, I really don't have much other than my outdoor adventures, which include a Transamerica bicycle ride from Yorktown on the Chesapeake to Florence, right here in our district. It took 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, which is the exact gestation of a pig, I was told. Oink. My other outdoor kudos, and that's why I relocated here, because this is the perfect base camp. You've got the mountains there, you got the sea here, you got bicycling like you can't believe, and the air is so fresh and wonderful. I was gone for 40 years, but I was always trying to get back, and well, here I am. I'm sure I've missed a lot, like those new buildings down on campus, the whole center and such, but I am a Lincoln man. As I said, my father was a Lincoln man. His father My great-great-grandfather was a Lincoln man. He was a Canadian, half Ojibwe, who enlisted in the Brass and Blue and was wounded at Cedar Mountain in Virginia, and who died on his way to Andersonville Prison outside Atlanta, Georgia. He was a Lincoln man as well. It seems that the magnanimity that Mr. Lincoln called on us all to exhibit, the better angels of our nature. The better angel is reason. Feelings have no place in political discourse. Zero. They merely inflame and appeal to emotions, which we all know contain vast amounts of irrationality. I did hear the previous two speakers, very interesting takeaways from Representative DeFazio was the transportation bill. I have a couple of questions about that. Oregon not being a right-to-work state, that means that every one of those transportation workers must belong to a union, and the union contributes heavily to what party? Thank you.
And now we'll hear from Republican candidate Art Robinson.
Thank you. Since the first time that my undergraduate research at Caltech was published in the journal Science, work on general anesthesia, I have spent my life in science. I have carried on work at the University of California at San Diego and Stanford. A lot of it is in esoteric areas of protein chemistry, which are not at issue today. And a lot of the rest of it is in medicine. My colleagues and I have discovered urinary patterns that are diagnostic of breast cancer, multiple sclerosis, and muscular dystrophy. Patterns that may allow these diseases to be seen much earlier than they are today. We have done exceptional work on the biochemistry of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And most importantly, we did seminal work on the subject of nutrition and the growth rate of cancer. This work in medicine has occupied quite of my life's work. But besides research, I've been a teacher. I have taught undergraduates and graduate students and postdoctoral students at the University of California at San Diego and at Stanford. After my scientist wife died, when my children were 1.5 to 12 years old, I educated them. 5 of them now have doctoral degrees. All 6 have college degrees in science. That's Dr. Noah Robinson. He has a doctorate from Caltech. That's Matthew Robinson. He has a doctorate from Oregon State. After that, our family began to concern ourselves with K-12 education. You know, when I went to school, American schools were the best in the world. Now they're about 40th in the world, and this is a terrible tragedy. I had the wonderful experience in the public schools that got me a chance to go to Caltech and become a scientist. So we have worked on that, and we have produced and supplied K-12 curriculums for over 100,000 homeschooled and public school students in this country. We know a lot about education. As you know, I've made some strong statements about some education failures. For example, in Washington, D.C., which is entirely the responsibility of the U.S. Congress, $450,000 is spent every year on each 30-student classroom for 9 months. The problem is the teachers don't control the money. It is controlled by union, bureaucratic, political apparatchiks who have ruined those schools. Most of those, they're actually the worst schools in the country. Most of those students don't even learn to read. Now, Congress has tried to fix this. A few years ago, they proposed several things: merit pay for teachers, vouchers, charter schools. Some of these things were done, and the schools have been gradually improving. But when they proposed that, Pete DeFazio voted against every one of those things because he votes for the unions. What he knows about education is that if you support the unions, they will help you at election time. I believe that those schools, in those schools, that whole $450,000 should go directly to the classrooms. It should be administered by the teachers, and those schools should be revised over the next summer vacation into the best schools in our country so that they can serve as an example. A couple of times during my life, I've turned aside to other pursuits. During the Cold War, our family was so concerned about the chance of nuclear attack that I worked for several years on the subject of emergency preparedness. I built a nationwide organization of 8,000 people who worked for civil defense. Our work was recognized by awards from the American Legion and widely recognized by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with whom we worked. Fortunately, that threat has diminished, but then a few years ago we became very concerned about another threat. Because as productive people, we were
Mr.
concerned
Robinson,
about
your time is up.
Huh?
Your time is up.
All right.
And I do have my first question is for you. Sorry.
Oh, it's for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Because you run for this congressional seat 3 times before. This is your 4th time. And Congressman DeFazio has held the seat since 1986, and he keeps getting reelected. Why, for you, why run again? Why not run for a different elected position? And maybe try to keep your answer brief, because we do need to break again
How
for
long
questions.
is my answer?
Let's say 1 minute.
1 minute?
Yeah.
I've run against him 3 times. I've won 4 of the 7 counties in District 4 all 3 times. And I will continue to run against Mr. DeFazio until he either leaves office voluntarily or is defeated. I have learned a lot more about politics than I ever wanted to know. And one of the things I've learned is that this man will lie about my family, he will lie about my deceased wife, he will lie about me, he will lie about anything to keep himself in office. I will be here running against lying little Pete until he's gone. Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, Congressman DeFazio, well, this is actually for Congressman DeFazio. You know, given that you have been in Congress so long, do you have any intention to move on or do something new in the near future?
Well, there's a lot of things on my plate, defeating the Trans-Pacific Partnership when I get back, getting more funding for transportation investment in this country. I got a provision in the bill says we get more funding, that money will flow through and be invested. No more 5 years, 6 years writing the bill. The bill's written. We need more investment in our transportation infrastructure. So my job is not yet done. When I'll retire, I don't know. I take it 2 years at a time. Just would point out to Mr. Robinson that the Congress, long before I was there, 1973, gave DC home rule. And under home rule, they have a mayor and they have a school board. And if he wants to work and run the DC schools, he can either get one of the 5 seats appointed by the mayor, but I think he might have to live in the city, or run for one of the 4 elected seats in DC. So if his intention, Congress does not run the schools in Washington, DC.
Thank you. We will be taking a break now for audience members to prepare written questions. When you have your question ready, just raise your hand and someone will pick it up. I don't know. I didn't tell them.
Welcome back to the October 7th City Club program, Oregon's 4th District U.S. House of Representatives Candidate Forum. If you feel formulating your questions, we have Mary and Sandra and another volunteer, Susan, getting those questions. Now remember folks, only City Club members get to write those questions and they'll be sorted out here at this table. So it'll be just a couple of seconds. And so if you're ready for the first question, I'm going to turn things over right to